Good evening, Warband. Welcome to the 6th iteration of the Red Pill Cult Meeting. I hope you all brought your own robes. I apparently forgot mine, because I don't have an avatar with a red robe. This is going to have to be corrected by the next one. And there we go, we've got chat in here. So, whoo! Wow, decent sized audience. All right, welcome. We've got Sergeant Grinch, Frost, Dax the Jock, Jackass 992, The Show AC, Real Talk, Just Some Random Guy, Frost, OK Lord, Cosmodash, and Random Gen Z Bastard, Mochi Alex, Cubing Speed. Welcome. Fish Got Nukes. Welcome everyone. Okay, so, Sean of Think Before You Sleep apparently didn't like that people didn't do what he felt was thorough enough research. Now, I do have something in progress to kind of nitpick the point he made when he eventually got around to attempting to make a point and it falling flat on his face. I recorded the entire stream, so whew. He couldn't even make it 2 hours. Here I am, going on hour 4, baby. All right. So, series of segments right now. Thank you to Success Pool Endeavors and the Mgtow Archive for archiving Think Before You Sleep stuff going back to the beginning of his channel. The quality shows. He has improved in quality quite a bit since then. Credit where credit is due. So I figured, well, it's a shame. It's a crying shame that all this knowledge of his old stuff is no longer on YouTube. Now, perhaps he doesn't think it fits with his channel's brand, but considering that he's more or less made a YouTube career out of taking other people's footage and commenting on it, maybe a bit of turnabout is fair play. So, this is going to be the first in a series of Red Pill Cult meetings. Either until, I get bored or everyone else is tired of this, or until we make it through the literally dozens of videos that he has deleted from several years ago. So, this is our first video. Begin the segment. Share the title. Sexist college textbook says men are stronger than women. Let's see where he's going with this.
Most effective ways of finding truth. Not to say
hold on. Back to the beginning. There we go.
Currently, science is one of our most effective ways of finding truth. Not to say that it's the only way to find truth, but it's the most effective tool that we have. And the way science works is by using facts, reason, and evidence, or using logical arguments. Whereas if I'm going to provide an argument here, I might say that I believe this, and this is why. Here's my sources. Go.
How times have changed.
And you can either say, on the other side, you can say, I agree. You can say, I don't know enough about this subject. Let me get back to you, or let me consult somebody else. Or I might say, I disagree, and I disagree for this, and this, as opposed to if you're disagreeing and you don't want to find truth, you just want to win, you might say, I disagree because I feel that this is true. I feel that I'm right, and I'm going to use any sort of manipulation I can find to make you wrong.
Such as perhaps nitpicking the points and completely misconstruing the intention of someone else's argument. But surely the man who posted this would never stoop to such levels. He's a believer in science.
And maybe that works if there's a contest, if there's something to contest that's kind of hard to figure out, like I believe that weed cures cancer or something like that, that's a little bit harder. But when there are things that have been proven truths that are very easy to identify, the things we all know. For example, I've heard a lot of women, not all of them, but quite a lot of women who are very into feminism say that women are just as strong as men. Here's a little example of that.
I think women are just as strong as men. I don't
Physically?
Yeah, I do.
But they're not, though, right?
Now, if you've been around for a while,
I'm just going to go back a second. Like, hold on. We're just going to just zoom in a little bit here. And yeah, don't mind the overlay bleeding into other stuff. Just like, can we just appreciate that look on her face? Here, let's hear her say that again. Just real quick.
I think women are just as strong as men. I don't
Physically?
Yeah.
I don't even think she could say that with a straight face. That doesn't look like a straight face to me. This is why I keep saying, like, I honestly don't even know if even women genuinely believe their own bullshit. Alrighty, let's get that line back up. Probably won't do that too much. That was kind of neat to do that midstream.
I do.
But they're not, though, right?
Now, if you've been around for a while, obviously that is a ridiculous notion. And I'm going to even show it to you because I was a kinesiology major, so when I was in school, I basically took every single exercise class that was available because I didn't really know what type of field I wanted to be in, so I just basically tried all of them.
Okay, so for future context, when he talks about fitness, he's speaking as a kinesiology major. Just, so that we're aware of his credentials.
Now, if you plan this out correctly in college, you can do that because most of your shit's going to be GE, and so that's going to be most of your work, and then you have a very small amount of actual classes that you need. And so when you hit that small area, you can kind of just take everything. And one of these classes I took was exercise physiology. As you can see, here was the book for that course. And this book is a particularly feminist style book. Here's a chapter that goes over the sex differences between men and women. And you can see from the very first page, it's very, very female focused. Let me read this for you. In the recent past, young girls typically were discouraged from participating in vigorous physical activity, while young boys climbed trees, raced against each other, and participated in various sports. The underlying notion was that boys were meant to be active and athletic, but girls were weaker and less well suited to physical activity and competition. Physical education classes furthered this idea by having girls exercise differently than boys, by running shorter distances and performing modified push-ups.
I mean, you see? This is accurate. Like, pointing out the hypocrisy in post-secondary education, using an actual textbook as a source. That's the thing. This is entirely reasonable. You understand why someone would go like, hey, this guy's pretty base, pretty red-pilled. So why is this video deleted? Could it be that perhaps this is inconvenient for you?
So you can see there's a very feminist notion behind that where it's like, even though that these are scientists, they're still kind of running or kowtowing the feminist line, which is like, well, it's just they have these social construct words where it's physical education classes further this idea, like it's not like something that's obvious that women.
If you mean feminist language, like using the phrase pay gap, wage gap, when what you mean to say is earnings gap. But no, still say that the wage gap exists. Absolutely. Let's keep going. I will be pausing somewhat often because this is meant to be a transformative experience. Much as I would like to just upload all the videos straight away, I think that just letting the video run for 22 minutes without giving any sort of reaction, not really a transformative work. So I got to give commentary at least once every couple minutes.
Women are not as strong as men by conforming to gender stereotypes and by giving girls modified push-ups. Let me just say, I've been a yoga teacher for about 5.5 years, and I've been doing yoga for about 7 years or so. In addition to my training in exercise science or kinesiology, or the layman's term would be physical education, but we don't like being, or people in this field don't like being called PE teachers, but basically I learned how to be a PE teacher. So what I've seen from my experiences in my class, and I've taught at this point thousands of people, and of course it's mostly women, so I can see women every day. Now yoga's changed a little bit over the time, so it's not like men are absent. In some classes I have 1 or 2 men, some classes 30% of the class is men, and I've got to say that most women cannot do a proper push-up. There is a reason why it is a stereotype, or why we have the girl push-ups or the modified push-ups, is because most women cannot complete a full push-up. They either do the thing where they kind of, when you do a proper push-up, you're supposed to lower your hips and shoulders at the same time. When you do an improper push-up, a lot of times people will kind of dip their pelvic bone down, and they'll kind of like worm their way into the push-ups, and they'll lower their hips first when they lower down, and when they push up, they'll kind of raise their shoulders up first, like they're kind of like doing like an upward facing dog motion, basically. Whereas if you do a proper push-up, you're flat as a board. So your hips are either the same level as your shoulders, or they're like the tiniest bit below that. And you're going to lower flat as a board. Hips lower the same time as the shoulders, and they lift up the same time as the shoulders when you push back up.
You're seriously telling me, and that most women can't perform a proper push-up? Now, again, he doesn't have a source for this. What weight ratio? I'd understand, yeah, most women with a BMI over 24 can't, but are you seriously telling me that your average female between the ages of, say, 10 and 30 can't perform a proper push-up? Jeez. Seriously, to any woman that sees this, please, here is the diagram of a proper push-up. Please, try to do a proper push-up and see if you can. Now, if you can't even get all the way down because your belly forms a cushion before your chin touches the ground, okay, you clearly have bigger problems than not being able to do a push-up. But if a woman of proper body size can't do it, cannot do it with good form, even one, I could understand maybe not being able to do 10, but 1? Wow.
Most women can't do that. Some women can, but most of them can't. Most of them can't do that without modifying the push-up. Whereas on the opposite end, most men can. Very few men that have taken my classes can't do a push-up properly after they're instructed how to. Now, sometimes they don't know, and once they say it's like this, they can do it. Whereas a lot of women, I say, do it like this, and then no matter how much they try, they can't do it. They either do the worm, or they get about halfway down. Once they get halfway down, they kind of plop to the floor. They can't do the chin to the floor type of thing. So there's a reason why women do modified push-ups. It's not just a social construct. It's an actual physical genetic fact that, well, we'll continue with this. Now, our big reason, our big sex-based chemical that affects this is testosterone. So testosterone increases bone formation, which leads to larger bones.
Shout out to TFM, hormone of the gods, testosterone. Men, be thankful you have it, and try to naturally increase it if you can, because apparently it's decreasing significantly, so we got to put in the effort where we can to try to keep the levels up.
And increase protein synthesis. Protein synthesis is just like the way you build up muscles, which in turn leads to increased muscle mass, and as a result, adolescent males are larger and more muscular than females. It already says it there, even though they're trying to suggest at the beginning of the chapter that this is a social construct, even though they're saying it's not. It's almost, well, this chapter might have been written by multiple people. And I was trying to look up who it was written by so I can give a little bit more background, but unfortunately they didn't say. And these characteristics continue into adulthood. At full maturity, men not only have a greater muscle mass, but the distribution of muscle mass differs from that of women. Men carry a higher percentage of their muscle mass in their upper body compared with women, 42.9% men versus 39.7% women. Testosterone also stimulates erythropoietin, I believe you pronounce that as, production in the kidney by the kidneys, which leads to increased red blood cell production, as discussed later in the chapter. And I imagine what they're going with the red blood cell production is higher endurance capability, because you can transport more oxygen, which is going to increase your VO2 max and is going to make you more survivable in endurance activities. Because the idea with endurance is that you are slowly running out of energy, and just before you run out, you take that breath of oxygen, you do some synthesis of ATP, sorry, I said ADP, of ATP, which is your main energy molecule, and then you boom yourself back up and having energy. And so if you're very, very weak at endurance sports, you're going to crash. You'll be able to lift yourself back up a little bit, but then you're going to crash right back down. The people who are very efficient at endurance-based activities are going to, they're about to crash, they catch themselves. They're about to crash, they catch themselves, and they can go for 30 minutes. They can go for like 5 hours. So if you're going to have higher blood cell production, you're going to have higher oxygen absorption of the blood cells, you're going to be able to recover a lot better for endurance-based sports. So estrogen, the female sex-based chemical. Now,
All right, so there's your basic 101 on testosterone. But I mean, nothing openly objectionable, though I imagine that chronic headache minor seizure hearing that pronunciation. I'm not sure if it's right, and I'd have to double check what the heck he said. But far from the only effects of testosterone, that's definitely the ones that at least would be relevant in a physical textbook. Continue.
Both men and women have estrogen and testosterone. It's just that estrogen is predominantly a female thing, and there's a couple types of estrogen, by the way. Testosterone is the predominant male hormone. So estrogen also increases the growth rate of bone, allowing the final bone length to be reached within 2 to 4 years following the onset of puberty. As a result, females grow very rapidly for the first few years following puberty and then cease to grow. Males have a much longer growth phase, allowing them to attain a greater height. Because of these differences compared with fully mature males, fully mature females are on average about 5 inches shorter. They're about 30 pounds, they're 30 to 40 pounds lighter. They have...
Chat, I think I'm going to need a source to cite whether or not the average female is currently lighter than the average male. I mean, maybe under identical physical circumstances, but are we sure that that's still just the average these days? Let's continue.
Have a higher fat, that's irrelevant, higher fat mass and higher body fat percentage. They have higher body fat percentage because that's what they need to produce children. So if you have a fit-looking male... I
mean, let's be honest. If a man and a woman have an equal amount of fat, then either one of them has boobs that shouldn't, or doesn't have boobs that should, or ass as an alternative. Just saying, your fat percentage now, admittedly, 3 to 6 kilograms, 7 to 13 pounds. I mean, honestly, I've never weighed like ass and titties, but do you think that decent sized ass and titties weigh 7 to 13 pounds?
On average, they're going to want about maybe 10 to 12% body fat. If you're going to have a fit-looking female, they're going to want about maybe 15 to 18% body fat, and probably no lower than 15, and probably no, for women, probably no lower than 10 for men. But that's not going to affect these areas too much as far as my knowledge goes. The big thing is the estrogen. Certainly, as women get older and they age, they're a big worry for osteoporosis, where women will lose like half of their bone mass, which means bone mass is going to provide you a lot of your strength and a lot of your protection. So you're losing half of that when you turn 50 or so after you go through menopause is a pretty big deal, especially for women. Now, if you look at these little numbers here, we have 5 inches of height, which is a big deal. When I was in martial arts, if you were competing at the same skill level, and we had divisions where, it's like the same weights, and we didn't really do any sort of grappling, so your weight doesn't matter that much. What would happen is if you were 5 inches taller, that means you had a bigger reach. Now, your wingspan, which is, how, if you hold your arms out, how far is it from your right hand, or the tip of your middle finger on your right hand, or the tip of the middle finger on the left hand? It's roughly that. That is very, very close to your actual height. And so if you're going to get 5 inches bigger in height, you might get about an inch more of reach on somebody else, which is a huge deal. Plus, this is probably just exclusive to fighting, is that 5 inches taller is going to make you a lot more intimidating. So certainly, if you're in a fight or if you're a soldier, being 5 inches taller is going to make you a lot harder to combat than someone who's 5 inches shorter, because naturally your brain is saying, this person's stronger than me because they're bigger than me. So
So let's see. So 1 inch more reach, 5 inches extra height. Like, I wonder how much of a height difference does there need to be for you to be able to hold somebody back with one arm and then be able to swing their arms and not hit you with their fists, or heck, fingers extended. Because like, I don't know about your guys' fingers, but I'd say mine are a good, 4 inches, let's say. So that means, if I was going to hold someone back shoulder to palm, and they were going to swing at me, they'd probably need 4 times 5 inches height difference. That'd be 20 inches of difference to not hit with fingers. Or, even fingertips. Fingertips are reasonable, so 2 inches, 10-inch difference, almost a foot. Yeah, so in a fight, 5 inches, it's definitely a significant difference. But an extra 1 inch of reach per 5 inches of height? Interesting. No, continue.
That's not a trivial difference, even though percentage-wise, it's not a very, you're going from, what's it?
AC, if he really did martial arts, he would know that dodging compensates for that extra inch or 2 or 3. Not having done extensive martial arts myself, I can't say. Could be a valid point there.
72 inches, or let's say 67 inches for a female, which would be 5'5", 5'7". I'm bad at math, but.
Oh wait, Elena saying great. I just find it weird that people are considering the strength between men and women and taking it seriously. We're not at war. Who cares? I'm pretty sure that the differences in fitness standards for men and women The profession. Let me make it very clear. If you don't acknowledge the strength between men and women, then there is a non-zero possibility that the next time firefighters come to your house and they need to carry an unconscious person out of the building, you will not get 5 male firefighters. You will get 5 female. Unlikely, perhaps. But there's a non-zero chance. If people genuinely believe and use their authority to genuinely place women in the positions of men, believing them to be equal. This has actual consequences beyond war. There are scenarios where life or death hangs in the balance based on the strength of individuals in certain positions. If you are placing women in the spots of men and expecting them to perform the same, people are going to die.
But let's say you're doing 67 inches versus 72 inches or so. Not an overall big difference, but in terms of actual physical capability, it is a big difference. Certainly, if you know anything about the UFC, if you know anything about grappling or like wrestling or judo, 30 to 40 pounds is a massive, massive deal. Now, it's been a while since I've actually looked at the weight classes of the UFC, but I think they are separated by about 20 pounds. So that's certainly enough to make a sizable and noticeable difference. And these are averages. So the average man is heavier and taller, which is already going to lead to specific advantages. Now, if you look at in terms of endurance is a more of a body weight based thing. So you can have what's called relative strength. So if you're a female in gymnastics, they typically want you to be very young, because by the time you get older, you're so tall that your relative strength is not as good as someone who is smaller. So if you're going to do tons of flips and tumbling in the air and on the mats, it's going to be a lot harder when you're bigger. Even though you might have the same amount of muscle, that muscle isn't as good as it was when you were smaller, because it's not going to be able to move as much of you. So you're dealing with a relative strength thing here as opposed to an overall strength thing when you talk about endurance, because I'm just lifting my own body weight. So these differences in actual endurance sports are very, very small. They're like 10% or 15%, even though men still win in every single category. Here's another one. Here's VO2 max. I've got 2 charts on this. VO2 max. You can see it's roughly the same. It's maybe about 15 or 20% if you look at the top males versus the top females, or the lowest male. Actually, if you look at the lowest males versus the lowest females, you get quite a bit of a bigger difference. All the dots are the athletic people, and the lines are the average people. And even on average, even the non-athletes are still outperforming the non-athlete females.
Hey, Alex Chung, thank you very much for the subscribe. I doubt I could perform firefighter tasks. Considering that when I was less fit, I tossed a girl heavier than me onto my shoulders and actively sprinted with her as part of University Frosh Week. Getting winded? Yeah. But I can do it. Yet a woman of equivalent fitness? They can't. This is straight up. That was me when I was weak. Nowadays, I haul around shit the weight of women, well, petite women, on a day-to-day basis for 8 hours a day. So, keep talking out your ass, because I have no problem removing you. Continuing.
And here's a more number-based chart of the probably basically the same statistics. And so, endurance sports or VO2 max. Let me explain what VO2 max is, because you might not know what that is. So VO2 max is your ability to absorb oxygen. What they'll do is they'll hook you up to like a breath machine. And on this breath machine, I think they have to put you in like a cage too, or like a cage is probably the wrong word for it, like a giant box. Is if there's any airflow into the box, they're not going to be able to determine how much you breathe in or breathed out. So they'll basically, well, they'll either put you in a box or they'll put you in like a
Elena, I was not talking about any firefighter studies. You're pulling that out, guys. I am merely presenting the scenario of male versus female firefighters. I did not mention a single study. So you're saying that those studies were debunked? Which studies? I'm just asking you, are you gonna be equally as reassured when 5 women pull up versus 5 men? Because I'm talking equivalent fitness level, as in didn't train, skinny as a rail, like did not go to the gym, and I was still able to firefighter carry a woman in her triple digits who was purposefully being dead weight. No, you're not going to get a woman who doesn't go to the gym doing that to a man that weighs more than her. Not a chance in hell. And like right here, like we'll go back in a second. Like you want equivalent fitness level, there you go. Untrained women, untrained men. Undeniable differences in their absorption. This shit is genetic. The only way that a woman is even going to get close to performing men is if she, like, look, you have top performing women in the untrained category equal to the average untrained man. And the female athletes, they don't even break into like the above 25% of male athletes. And you're going to say, oh, it's equivalent fitness levels. Like, okay, but a woman's got to work way harder than a man to be as good as the low end of men in fitness. Like, come on.
This is your ability to absorb oxygen. What they'll do is they'll hook you up to like a breath machine. And on this breath machine, I think they have to put you in like a cage too, or like a cage is probably the wrong word for it, like a giant box. Is if there's any airflow into the box, they're not going to be able to determine how much you breathe in or breathe out. So they'll basically, well, they'll either put you in a box or they'll put you in like a ventilator, and they're going to measure how much oxygen comes in, and then they're going to measure how much oxygen comes out. So let's say you breathe in 100 units of oxygen, and then you breathe out 50 units of oxygen. And so let's...
Elena, I gave very clear reasons why strength matters. So, yeah. Thank you very much, Frost. Bye.
say that means your VO2 max is 50. No, that's probably the wrong way to say that. So you breathe out 50 units of oxygen, but you run a little bit more, you do some training, you do a 10-week program, and then you go back to the VO2 meter, a VO2 max meter, and you're going to breathe in 100 units of oxygen, and then you're going to breathe out 30 units of oxygen. Your oxygen utilization has gone up by 20 units of oxygen because you breathe out less oxygen.
Actually, though, you know what? Since I can at least give the illusion of freedom of speech, here's the donations. Because unlike Sean of Think Before You Simp, I will read out every message that you send me money for, and there's even a text-to-speech option, which means I don't have a choice. All right, we'll continue now and see if anyone else decides to drop a couple bucks in. Links pinned at the top of the chat.
And this is one of our currently our best determinant of actual aerobic fitness. So this is the number people try to increase when they're trying to make an athlete run further, whether it's like they're a marathon runner, or maybe let's go back to the UFC. You want to produce a good UFC fight, so you're going to train VO2 max. That way you can last your 5 rounds of 5 minutes, as opposed to gassing out of the first round. Because I got to say, untrained 5 minutes of a fight is like forever. Now here's where the differences get a lot bigger. In terms of strength, women have traditionally been regarded as the weaker sex. Again, despite the fact that they have all the evidence in front of them that women are actually weaker and they're actually physically less capable, they're still throwing, this is still a very feminist book. They're still promoting the social construct that, which is perceived. It's just perceived that they're the weaker sex. So in terms of strength, women have traditionally been regarded or perceived as the weaker sex. And which is weird because the way they write this, they flip it around. Where it's like, well, that's actually correct, even though we're trying to say it's wrong. In fact, women are approximately 40 to 60% weaker than men in upper body strength, but only 25 to 30% weaker in lower body strength. So the feminism is strong. It's like, oh, they had this over here. They're 60, 40, 60%, but only this here. Those are still pretty massive differences. Those are different enough to win every single. So if you ever listen to Jordan Peterson, he talks about rats quite a bit from a guy named Jaak Paintsep, who wrote in a book called Affective Neuroscience. And what he would do is do a bunch of rat experiments. And one of the experiments he did was to measure how rats play.
Now, curious again, as I look at this textbook, the more I see these words, the more I think like, okay, 40 to 60% weaker, but relative to what? Like, is that just the average woman that's weaker? Or is that a woman who attempts to achieve a similar level of fitness? Like, throwing these numbers out, I mean, they're probably not wrong, but they also lack the context for why is this wrong? Is this because women in general are just less fit than men, or did they subject men and women to an identical training regimen and observe the differences? Because, like, is it a matter of bone density? Men have denser bones. They have more muscle mass, and they will grow it faster and thicker and larger. It's an interesting question that, well, while this seems accurate, it's missing some context that I'd like. But, okay, let's be honest. This is a textbook. I mean, it's been a while since I've read a university textbook, but sorely lacking in deeper information.
And so rats will wrestle, and they have kind of this moral code where if you're the rat that wins every single time and you don't ever let the little rat win, well, then the little rat will never ask you to play again or will never want to play with you. And so all you have to be to win every single time, to win every single wrestling match with a rat, is 30% stronger or 30% bigger than the smaller rat. You'll win every time. So these are pretty big differences. Now, it didn't say in the book what types of people these were, because I imagine if you actually had trained people, the differences would be a lot bigger than 60%. I think the differences would be massively bigger than 60%. Because if you look at things like, I'll give you some Google homework. You can look up the biggest, well, actually I've got it right here so I can just say what it is. You look up the world record for a deadlift. The world record for a female deadlift is 573 pounds. That's not trivial, but I could get nowhere near 570 pounds. I'd have to train for years to get that. But when you look at the mat, and this is like, there's a video, I forget what video, it's like if you look on Netflix and you look at one of the weightlifting videos for like documentaries like Pumping Iron, the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, it's not that movie, but it's somewhere else. It's one of those weightlifting documentaries. There's a guy in there, he doesn't do it in the documentary, but if you look at his record afterwards, where he does a world record deadlift, and this guy's like bleeding out of his nose. He's like about to collapse. So this is like 573 is like, I'm about to die when I lift this. So 573 is the best female deadlift. The best male deadlift is 1,155. Let me repeat that because I messed that up. 1,155 pounds.
573. 1155. That's what? 582? World record. We'll see if he mentions the math here, but 500. Wait. That is over twice. Like legit, that's more than twice. Literally more than doubling the weight if I did the math right.
So that is almost twice. No. Sorry, there's more than twice what women can do in terms of deadlift. Double the strength. Again, massive deal. And if you actually look at the guy who is the strongest man, the strongest deadlifter, he looks way stronger. He looks way bigger than the strongest female.
Those forearms are tiny. That's the thing. Like she looks buff. I'll give her that. But I'll be honest. Like aside from the biceps, I guess what the lats for the back, and I assume the pecs under the bodysuit. That's it. That still looks tiny. Look, I work with guys who are bigger and bulkier than that. And all they do is fucking lift heavy shit all day. Not even this heavy shit. Damn.
So, as we have it here, now we have the claim as it was made at the beginning of the video. By the way, I'll link that video that I posted in the description because there's some more interesting things that were said that I didn't put in the small clip I put up. But as we can see, which is something that we already know, we have the evidence, we have the case, we have the back and insights. Oh, by the way, this little thing on the screen where it says, however, because of the considerable size, the next part of that paragraph isn't that interesting. It basically just says that if you put men and women pound for pound, male muscle is not stronger than female muscle. But that doesn't matter because men are always bigger than women. So it's like if you had a 130 male and a 130 female and they had the same body fat, well then you would have equal amounts of strength output. But again, that's not a realistic situation because most men, even it said on average, men are 5 inches bigger. Men are 40 pounds heavier or so. So we have the facts.
I'm somewhat skeptical of that because I mean, wait a second. A 130-pound male versus a 130-pound female. My understanding is that guys have greater muscle density and greater bone density. A 130-pound male with equivalent muscle mass to a female would probably look smaller than the female. If you made it where it was equivalent, I'm willing to bet that the guy would look smaller. He'd have to, because higher bone density would mean that a woman would need more bone to equate a man's bone density. Higher muscle density would mean that a woman would require more physical volume of muscle. Now, pound for pound is one thing, but weight versus density means that a woman with equivalent strength to a man, pound for pound, would physically look bigger than him and yet be equal in strength. Like, chat, correct me if I'm wrong or misguided on this.
In a very feminist style textbook, they will still say that men are considerably considerably stronger than women. And of course we have to, because we have to provide the meals, we have to protect, we have to fight all the wars, because it makes the most sense because men are the expendable ones. So if you have women fighting wars, well, you're going to lose, because one man can impregnate 100 women, whereas one woman can only be impregnated by one man. So of course you're going to make the sex that is more disposable the one that goes and fights all the wars, and you're going to embody that by making them the stronger sex, or you're going to make sure they do all the heavy lifting. So, well, for whatever reason that was taken, or you need to do all the hunting, because when you hunt stuff and you don't have modern technology, the shit fights back. So if you're going to hunt a mammoth, the mammoth's going to say no, and it's going to fight back, and, well, one of you may die, or one of you may be injured, so, well, you don't want them there for that. Anyway, I just thought I'd point that out. I really can't stand when people make frivolous claims like that, things that are just flat out obvious. Women are not as strong as men. Women are not as aggressive as men. Especially in the extremes. Especially when as soon as you hit those extremes, like I said, the strongest male versus the strongest female, the strongest male is twice as, well, in terms of deadlifts, the strongest male is twice as strong. All right, anyway, hope you enjoyed that. I will see you in the next one, and go ahead and give this, if you like this video, go ahead and give it a like, go ahead and give the channel a subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Currently, science is one.
All right, so that was Sean's first video. I mean, for a first video, it's pretty good, I'd say. I mean, a lot further that it could go, a lot more in depth. But 22-minute video, which I'm pretty sure I managed to double the length up there. Length of, misspeaking. So, I'm calling an end to the first clip there, but we've still got enough time to get through at least one more, maybe two more. So, quick intermission.
I just got done listening to an interview with Katie Hopkins.
Alright, so back that up, and let's see if this switched over in Streamlabs. It did. Nice, this works. Alright, so quick intermission, gents, and then we will be right back with the second video. Calling someone fat is a hate crime. Alright, and we are back. So, video 2 of Sean's Think Before You Sleep's archive. Calling someone fat is a hate crime. So, chat, I'm not entirely sure when this video was made, but it wasn't made last week. This video probably could have been made last week, could have been made last year. This video was made like at least 4 or 5 years ago. One downside of the archive is they don't have the original post date archived, so we're just going to have to go with our best guess. But I'm pretty sure at absolute latest, this video is 2018, maybe 2019. we are going to have to we're going to have to see. We're going to see how relevant this is. Keep going. So, second video. Here we go. Action.
I just got done listening to an interview with Katie Hopkins, who is a British media personality who's a little bit inflammatory. And she has a series called My Fat Story, where she is apparently, I don't know too much about this, but she was talking to some women who were noticeably overweight. And she was commenting on how the weight gain works to one of the fat women. And she says, well, I need to call the police because I think you've just committed a hate crime. And then, so she's in the studio and they're talking, and then she walks out of the studio, picks up her cell phone and calls the police because Katie Hopkins called her fat.
Hey, Tazerov Omega, thank you very much for subscribing. You're going to be immortalized when I create this as its separate segment. Also, I'll be honest, I have no clue who Katie Hopkins is. So, this might be relevant to some of you guys in the chat. I'm flying blind on this, but I assume that she is or was someone of some importance. And yes, to answer the chat, yeah, he's deleted this. He's deleted a ton of videos, and we're going to go through these one by one, and I'm going to milk them for content. So enjoy. There's going to be a lot of cult meetings. And since we're probably only going to get through like 2 or 3 of these a meeting, I got content for the next year.
This is ridiculous, I thought, because I was listening to it in an interview with Stefan Molyneux with her, where she was talking about that. And I thought, I can't believe Britain has gotten to the point where you can report somebody for saying things that you don't like. Not like, I'm going to kill you. Of course you can report someone for saying that, but it's just saying, there's this thing about you I don't like, so I'm going to say it. And then she goes and calls the police.
Elena, if you want to get a message across to me, Streamlabs is at the top. You lost your free speech privileges, now you have to pay for it.
It is this kind of slippery slope where it's like, in the past you've seen certain patterns happen, where just recently, a couple big events, like Alex Jones just got banned off the entirety of modern social media. He got banned off of Facebook, though ironically he still runs ads on Facebook. He got, maybe they changed that, but I've seen tons of InfoWars store ads on Facebook recently. He got kicked off of Apple, Twitter, YouTube, all the big social media platforms all at once. And there was this whole big thing about it. Well, they banned Alex Jones because Alex Jones is obviously kind of a nut job, and they banned the craziest of them. And everybody was saying, hey, this is a big deal. Alex Jones didn't do anything violent. He does suggest some really dumb things, like Sandy Hook's being a hoax, and he even said, hey, that was dumb. I retract my statement that Sandy Hook was a hoax, even though there's some other things that Alex Jones does that I don't quite agree with. But they just basically deplatformed him because he was the easiest one to say, oh, yeah, he's easy to deplatform, so we'll get him.
Deplatforming and disavowing someone because they said something disagreeable and controversial? I wonder what kind of person would do something like that. Definitely not the creator of this video. He'd never turn against something that he believes in simply because a small group of people were saying inflammatory shit on Reddit. No.
And everybody was saying, hey, we got to watch this because they're going to come for us too. And of course, there's this big event that's been going on for the past month where Sargon of Akkad was banned from Patreon for calling some Nazis the N-word. And now it hits a little bit more home because Sargon of Akkad is a very reasonable person, very nonviolent, very level-headed in his discussion and review of certain political topics. And now they've come for the more reasonable. Fortunately, at this point, the crazy left does not own the media anymore, so they can't just bury this under the rug, whereas the truth owns the media. Now, I can't say the right, because the right makes mistakes too that are very, very...
Okay, the truth owns the media? Gentlemen, after the past couple years, would any of you believe that the truth owns the media? Or exactly how wide is the definition of media? Because, yeah, after the past couple years, I wouldn't necessarily say that the truth is the one in control of the media.
Similar to the left mistakes. They're just not the guilty party right now. But now truth holds over the media. And so you see a subversion tactic from Patreon that this new PayPal person goes over to Patreon, and immediately, like 2 months after she takes over the trust and safety team of Patreon, some of these big YouTubers get banned. But what's happened, because truth owns the media now, they can't just lie. They can't just get away with subverting truth-sided beliefs, because Sargon's very, very into that. And he's exposed a lot of the lies of feminism. He's exposed a lot of the lies of other political movements, and they clearly don't like that. So what they do is just, we'll take your funding away. We're going to find somebody we'll get you fired from your job. We'll take you off our platform, and we'll do whatever. But it doesn't work anymore, because the left's whole game plan was that we are the moral authority. We're the ones who are on the side of good, on the side of right. But when you take someone's free speech away for doing something like that, or when you take someone's whole job away for doing something that's, something that everybody else, that a lot of other people are doing on your platform, but you haven't said anything about them because they're not a major opponent against you.
I wonder if Sean still believes that the truth holds the media. Personally, I doubt it, considering that in order to get his message out, he had to disavow, step away from Mgtow, and even then, even in his, I guess, second most recent stream, since he's apparently streaming now, he had to switch the title from Mgtow to Manosphere, and I'm betting dollars to donuts he did that so that it would get wider traction. Does truth really, really hold the media, Sean? Or is controlling finances an effective way of getting people to say the things that those in actual power want them to say? If you happen to watch this, which I'm going to tag you in every one of these, so please comment below. And if you do have the original dating files for each of these videos, that would be appreciated too, to help give a little bit of context into why you might have said some of these things.
Well, you can't hide shit like this anymore. And as far as I'm aware, Patreon has immediately lost 20% of all their business, like within a week. That is a massive, massive deal. Like, if you're a company that's big, you're going to be operating on very small margins. So to lose 20% of your business in a week is catastrophic. Now, whether Patreon will survive this or not, it could be not that big of a deal, because Patreon's a very light company in terms
yeah, so from 4 to 5 years in the future, yes, Patreon absolutely survived this.
of how expensive it is. If you need a web designer, you need someone to process the payments, and you need some other small things, but it's not like they've got big infrastructure that's business regulations and crap like that they're going to pay for. So they may very well have survived this hit. But the point being is that the cards on the table for all this stuff, and really what this ends up being is a lack of responsibility. The whole left's argument is we're the moral people, and the second part of the argument is shifting the blame.
We're the moral people and shifting the blame. I wonder if he can see the irony. I do sincerely hope that he rewatches his own videos. I honestly, let's be honest, Sean. The only way that you're going to be able to prevent this stuff is if you react to your own videos. Because the only reason that I'm doing this right now is because you won't. You hid this shit. You buried this shit. But I think it'd be fascinating for you to rewatch your videos from half a decade ago, 4 years ago, and see whether or not you actually still agree with them. I mean, heck, this is the highest number of concurrent viewers, so clearly, this kind of stuff has an audience. And if you're looking for content for your streams, which, given that there isn't much content in your streams, I'd say you are, I'd suggest doing it. Good practice to also get you past that hour and a half mark before your voice gives out.
And a part of that shifting the blame, especially as I specifically picked this topic because I wanted to talk about genetics, and I wanted to talk about being overweight. And as someone who was a personal trainer, is a graduate of exercise science, and is a current yoga teacher, I'm someone who's been in the fitness world quite a long time, and at least, as far as I can tell, at least the fitness world is not buying this bullshit where, fat is genetics, oh, don't body shame, don't do all this stuff, which are all of our safeguards against being overweight. It's like, maybe you take one tower down, and as you've had the power longer and longer and longer, you start dismantling every single fail-safe that we have against this. So maybe one of our fail-safes was the food industry, and so now that's... one of our fail-safes against being overweight was mom was at home. And so feminism took mom out of the put mom into the workforce, which means she can't cook food for her kids anymore, which means they're going to buy the most easy-to-do processed crap you can possibly get, and that threw a massive need for processed foods into the market, which means, okay, so now mom's not making food. We need to produce cooked food for millions of people. Let's make it as cheap as possible. Let's make it as addictive as possible. And let's make it as high calorie as possible because those are the base desires that people want.
It does not take terribly long to cook healthy meals. It really doesn't. Big complex stuff? Sure. Like a roast? Okay. But if you want to make some pasta, which is pretty healthy, that does not take terribly long. And you could pre-make it. You could batch make it. These women are not working 7 days a week. This is not a matter of, oh, mom's too busy. Like, single dads. Like, no one's complaining about single fathers running out and having to buy all their kids like freaking like McDonald's. No. It's single mothers that do that.
Donations equals freedom of speech.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You can talk in the chat for free, so long as you're reasonable, sensible, and you're not being needlessly antagonistic. These are videos that are going to go up. But if you manage to annoy me or my mods, then I'm going to make you pay to speak during the stream. And keep in mind, this is just during the stream. These will go up on YouTube as their own separate videos. If you want to post your own sources, links, video essays, you are more than welcome to do that. I can't and won't charge you for it. More than free to respond to this, just whether or not I want your content in my video, that entirely depends on A, if I like you, and B, if you pay. Because if you're willing to pay, it doesn't matter whether or not I like you. That's why I made the text-to-speech pretty bloody cheap. But I'm getting off topic. Let's continue.
Otherwise, our businesses aren't going to survive. So they took women out of the workforce. They did some other things as well.
Also, I have no idea how to pronounce your name. SLID 76F38727E5AB 3B96. I appreciate your $6.79 donation. I have no clue what the heck your name is supposed to mean, but I do appreciate it. Thank you.
They've gotten rid of fat shaming. So now it's at least in Britain, it may very well be a crime to call someone fat. It may not be the case now. The police might have just laughed at her, but there are a lot of things in Britain that are going on right now that make that very, very scary. And I like to think of this the way I think about firearms. In firearms, you have a couple different realms of safety when you are dealing with, like, let's say, a rifle. Because it's very easy to, if you don't follow the rules of safety, it's very, very easy to actually shoot somebody. Just like in a car, it's very easy to accidentally plow into someone on the street. So there's, certain rules you have to follow. That way you don't get hurt. And so a couple of those rules are make sure that your fingers are off the trigger, which is a rule that every single Hollywood actor breaks, despite the fact they'll
finger off the Alec Baldwin could murder somebody because he didn't follow that. Continue.
have like this high grade, 6-month military training in how to go around corners, how to reload quickly, but they just miss that part where you don't put your finger on the trigger conveniently, even though it is the first rule of firearm safety. You don't point the gun in a direction, or you don't point the gun at somebody you're not willing to shoot or kill. You always have it pointed in basically the safest possible direction. You know what's beyond your target. You know what your target consists of. You know what's beyond it that way, because bullets do go through stuff. And you have the safety on where it's applicable. Not all guns have safeties, but a lot of really important ones do.
Honestly, Shinobi one, if I start to get a decent enough income, I will absolutely pass some shekels onto the mods. Like, normally I'm running on a margin of absolutely nothing, so I wouldn't object to paying the mods for their time, because I do appreciate the work you guys do in the chat.
So if you happen to have fucked one of those up, if you happen to have kept your finger on the trigger, well, safety's on. If you happen to have kept your finger on the trigger and you pull the trigger with the safety off, well, you're not pointed anywhere, so it didn't matter. But if you take all those safe havens and you take all those blocks against doing things stupid, well, then you're going to have a massively fat population. So you put mom in the workplace, which means now we don't cook our own foods. That means nobody knows how to cook anymore. You get rid of the social shaming that may be related to getting rid of people that were, shame is a big tactic. Like, shame is the reason people don't steal in Japan. Shame is the reason that people aren't overweight in Japan. So things like that. But one of the big arguments for the "it's not my fault"
Mod bucks.
Appreciated, HMK. I'll be sure to pass at least some of this on to the other guys.
thing is genetics. It's saying that this prevailing concept for the past at least 20 years has been saying it's not the food that's making you fat, it's just your genetic hand. It's convenient because not even 5 decades ago, so a lot of people are still alive and still remember this, people weren't fat. You had like one fat person in your entire high school. Like if you look at, this might be not a good example, but I was just watching It's a Wonderful Life. If you look at that movie, there was like 2 fat people in that entire movie. Everybody else is normal weight. Everybody else is not only normal weight, because normal weight in current standards is still fat. Normal weight could be like 20%, 24% body fat, which is, that's pretty heavy looking. That's pretty chunky looking. I'm talking like they were, maybe, well, it's different for men and women, but they were on the lower end, like the 10% end, the 15% end, the 20% end for women. So we just had that happen, and now magically in 50 years, even though it takes thousands of years, if not tens of thousands of years for genetics to actually change, magically in 50 years, genetics is why people are fat. That's not the case. I don't want to look at myself. I don't want to see myself as responsible, so I'm going to find anything I can blame and blame it on that. Oh, I'm an Indian, so the Native Americans or I don't know, what First Nations people, as they call them in Canada, they had this genetic predisposition to store fat because food was very scarce, which why don't we all have that? Food has always been scarce until recently.
Funnily enough, I was actually taught in elementary school that the reason that we get fat... Ooh.
Mods, buy yourself some Robussi.
God damn. We're going to need a little more than that. Robussi don't go for that cheap. I mean, unless you make a communal one that everybody shares, but my mods have standards. Thank you very much, though. Oh, but that's the thing. Like, I was literally told in elementary school, I'm pretty sure it was elementary school, that the reason that we store fat is because we evolved to be prepared for starving times. And that's why it's not a good idea to go on a starvation diet, because your body is more likely to put all the calories that you get into your fat. And that if you want to lose weight, you should instead have frequent meals so that your body does not think, oh, we're starving, we need to stockpile fat. This was many years ago. I may be completely off on this, but that seems far more likely than some people just going, well, my genetics make me fat, so there's nothing I could do about it. Like, all right, well, I got a metabolism like a hummingbird, so I need to eat a shit ton to even try to put on muscle weight, to say nothing of ever being fat. So I can understand that. But just as the solution for me to gain weight is to just eat more, people who tend to store more calories can just eat less and perhaps distribute it amongst smaller meals. You adjust your behavior to suit your circumstances. No one is forcing you to eat the exact same portions of the exact same foods as someone else. This is an issue of self-control.
Or it's, I've got polycystic ovarian disease, so I just get fat. Well, let me just say this. If you were to... There's a principle in chemistry that's one of the laws of matter, which is matter cannot be created or destroyed. So if I were to take you and put you in a room where there was nothing but a toilet, and I were to leave you in that room for 2 months...
Only mods.
Yeah, that's where I create an avatar for each one of my mods. And then sell R34 of it. Although OnlyFans won't actually do it because there's some bullshit involving them needing my actual social media page, which I don't even have. So, pretty sure I'm going to have to put the not safe for work stuff as a bonus tier on Subscribestar. But if you want not safe for work waifus of the mods, well, keep donating dollars towards it, and I'll see what I can do. And hey, if you guys want to raid his chat, like, you can. I'm gonna keep going through, at the very least, this video. We might go the full 3 hours here. We're gonna try to get through at least 3 of his full videos. If you're gonna raid his chat, maybe just tell him what I'm doing. Because getting his eyeballs in here and the eyeballs of his chat in here, I think would be very uplifting. So if you want to go and spam something, just say, the Grey Ghost is reviewing your deleted videos in a Red Pill cult meeting. But we're going to keep going. I do appreciate the support, guys.
And give you no food. I gave you water because I'm not going to kill you. I give you no food. I bet you by the end of that 2 months, or even just a month, you would have lost a shitload of weight. And so if you take that to its logical conclusion, there is some amount of not eating that is going to make you not be overweight. Now, you just need to find out how much. And I've been overweight. Overweight's probably the right word. I was never obese because I was maybe 50 pounds overweight, which that may be obese. So I know people who are like that eats. I know the person who eats like 3 large pizzas in a day from Domino's. I know the person who eats 3 large pizzas from Domino's and drinks 2-liter bottles or 2 liters of Coke, and eats a bag of M&Ms, and then that's just like their dinner. I've known people like that. I know how much these people eat. They want to say it's genetics.
I'm astounded that people can eat that much. Like, me, like, I got, like, if I'm going to put away a large, no, heck, not even a large, a medium. For me to put away a medium pizza, I got to eat that fast. Like, really fast. Otherwise, my stomach's going to realize what the heck I'm doing to it and tell me to stop. Like, I've put away a decent amount of calories in one sitting. Maybe 1,500. I don't think I've ever put away more than 2,000 calories in one single sitting. So, I honestly have no idea how some people can eat 5, 6, 7 plus thousand calories in one day. It's honestly a mystery to me. I just don't get it. I know some people do, I just don't get it.
They want to say it's not their fault. And you could even go this far because genetics has a pretty high bearing on your intelligence, which you actually can very well easily prove. So you could say that you could do an IQ test for all the people who are overweight, and you might find that everybody who's overweight has an IQ of 90, which is fairly below average. And so you might say, well, it's because that they're intelligent, that they're in this fantastic environment where we've got all this food, that's why they're overweight. So it is genetics. Well, if you want to say it this way, wisdom is always going to trump intelligence. Wisdom will always outbeat the most intelligent idea you could possibly hit, because if you have nothing, if you're starting from zero, the dumbest person of today in American society could easily tell you way more about how the world works than you could just figure out yourself with just your intelligence. You know, this is a person this is a person that might not know how the sun works or how the moon works or how basic food science works, which most of us have been educated on. So wisdom can be a very determining factor in how you actually go about a problem that can way outbeat intelligence. I can just find the most intelligent person. He can just say, this is what I figured out. Do this, 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 and this. I copy the formula. Suddenly I have the perception of I'm someone who's really intelligent without actually having the genetics for it. So if you are saying it's genetics, if you are saying it's not your fault, if you're saying that there's nothing you can do about it, that is all blame shifting, because we've got more than enough wisdom of how to lose weight. Now, to be fair, there has been a lot of bad information in media. There's been a lot of media companies who just want to, sell shit and make money. I want to sell this shake that is like Slim Fast when Slim Fast is supposed to make you lose weight. How? It's just a protein shake. Protein shakes don't make you lose weight any faster than just eating actual food.
Hey, Cavill, thank you very much for the subscribe. Welcome, welcome.
In fact, they might actually make you lose weight slower, because the easier your food is to digest, the more bioavailable all the calories are, which means that you may very well absorb more calories of Slim Fast than you would an actual steak. Though you're going to have to ask a biologist for that. So this shifting of responsibility, shifting of the blame is, and I think the reason that these people are, especially the ones who are particularly overweight, especially the one from this story with Katie Hopkins, which I'll probably just link the 40-second video in the description, is that if she is wrong about this, if she is wrong about being overweight, if she is wrong about the responsibility, or the lack of responsibility, what she's probably wrong about is a lot of other things. These things don't just happen in isolation. These things are always multi-tiered, multifaceted problems. So someone who is overweight, especially if they're like 100 pounds overweight, if they're like massively overweight, chances are they have way more problems than they're letting on, which is what led to the obesity, especially problems at home. So saying that it's genetic is like saying, well, I had no way to control this. There's no decisions I made that made this happen. It just happened because that's how it is. And that's probably that's probably what they believe about a lot of other problems. I'm not successful because I'm black. I'm not successful because I'm gay. I'm not successful because I'm a woman. You're not successful because you don't work hard. You're not successful. You may have expectations that are way too high. So you may think that you're going to be president of the United States when you've barely even passed a high school arithmetic. Sorry, let's say elementary school arithmetic. That's not going to happen. You have to be realistic about what you can do. Or the fat version of that is maybe you think that you can lose 20 pounds a day every single day until you are normal weight, which is certainly, I thought you could do ridiculous things like that when I was younger, because there was no education on that. And speaking of that, why don't I just give my 3 minutes or so on how to actually lose weight, just in case you happen to be confused. The whole process of weight loss is that you have to eat less. That is the only thing that matters.
Not necessarily. You have to eat, as I've been told many times, you have to be in a caloric deficit. You can eat the exact same amount if you increase the amount of calories you are burning. For example, if you sit in a desk all day and eat 3,000 calories, you're probably going to be in a caloric surplus and you're going to get fat. If you eat 3,000 calories a day and you spend 8 to 9 hours a day moving around heavy shit 5 to 6 days a week, you're probably going to be in a caloric deficit and lose weight. The amount of energy you expend is the other factor. How much you eat is just how much energy you are taking in. It is not the only factor. It is a factor. Now, maybe he'll get to it in another couple seconds, but for someone who apparently graduated from exercise science, I feel like this is something pretty big to overlook.
It does not matter what type of food you eat. It does not matter how much you exercise. It does not matter.
I'm going to play that again. Just go back 10 seconds. Play that again.
The process of weight loss is that you have to eat less. That is the only thing that matters. It does not matter what type of food you eat. It does not matter how much you exercise.
Those of you who have a lot of experience in fitness, put a 1 if that is full of shit. Put a 2 if you think that that is valid. Personally, I would think that doing significantly more exercise would allow you to eat a larger amount of food and still be in a caloric deficit. I may be wrong on this. I didn't graduate from kinesiology. Getting a fair bit of 1s. Well, guess that goes to show that you spent how many years of your life getting a really expensive sheet of toilet paper, huh? Continue.
It does not matter how stressed you are. The only thing that matters is how much food you put into your mouth. So if you identify that as the only problem that's really the case there, you can start attacking, well, if I'm eating too much or if I'm not doing this thing properly, what's causing me to not do this thing properly? Whereas you can spend all this time exercising, which is not going to solve the problem, and you can be focused on this thing that's totally removed from the point.
Sorry, Frost, you missed it? I'll go back to where he says it.
That is the only thing that matters.
Now we'll go back to...
Or so on how to actually lose weight, just in case you happen to be confused. The whole process of weight loss is that you have to eat less. That is the only thing that matters. It does not matter what type of food you eat. It does not matter how much you exercise. It does not matter how stressed you are. The only thing that matters is how much food you put into your mouth. So on how to actually lose weight, just in case you happen to be confused. The whole process of weight loss is that you have to eat less. That is the only thing that matters. It does not matter what type of food you eat. It does not matter how much you exercise. It does not matter how stressed you are. The only thing that matters is how much food you put into your mouth. So if you identify, just in case you happen to be confused, the whole process of weight loss is that you have to eat less. That is the only thing that matters. It does not matter what type of food you eat. It does not matter how much you exercise. It does not matter how stressed you are. The only thing that matters is how much food you put into your mouth. So if
Again, this is a graduate of exercise science. Graduate. He's certified in this. He's supposed to be an authority in this. I just had to repeat that a couple times just to make sure that it got through clearly. We shall continue.
you identify that as the only problem that's really the case there, you can start attacking, well, if I'm eating too much or if I'm not doing this thing properly, what's causing me to not do this thing properly? Whereas you can spend...
Frost, he did not say that you have to be in a caloric deficit. He said all that matters is how much you eat. You're giving him too much credit by saying caloric deficit. Because I could eat the exact same amount every single day, and there would be a big difference in my caloric deficit or surplus depending on how much work I did throughout that day. The guy who sits on his ass and plays video games or does work from home on the computer 6 days of the week is not burning as many calories per day as the dude who either works in construction or goes to the gym 6 out of 7 days of the week. You know this. I know this. And I don't think either of us had to spend a shit ton of money to get a certificate proving that we know this.
all this time exercising, which is not going to solve the problem, and you can be focused on this thing that's totally removed from the point, and then not have that you can put all your effort there and then get tired out and give up after that doesn't work, because that's not what works. So eating less calories in versus calories out is the number one way to lose weight, is the only way to lose weight. Even if you exercise, you'll just eat more after exercising, and you'll say, well, I just did a 2-mile run. I guess I can go eat a whole box of Oreos, and not realizing that a 2-mile run maybe burns 300 calories. A whole box of Oreos is like 2,000 calories.
No. Now you're being disingenuous. Maybe that's not even the right word. Now you're backtracking, saying like, oh, well, if you exercise more, then you'll eat more. No. You may be hungrier, sure. You may be hungrier after doing a full day. But just because you exercise doesn't mean you have to eat. You could eat the exact same thing and exercise. To say that exercise inevitably means that you're going to eat more is wrong. And that it has to be a box of Oreos. I'm sorry, if you're the kind of person to put away a box of Oreos, I don't think whether or not you exercise is the initial problem. I mean, sure, I'll put away more food on days where I work out, on days where I've done a hard day's work. But I'm also capable of doing other shit so that I don't pack away extra food. I run a caloric deficit on a daily basis simply because I'm too busy to eat. I don't have the time nor the money to eat a bloody pack of Oreos. Box of Oreos. So to say that all you need to do is eat less and that exercise will inevitably make you eat more, that sounds ridiculous. Just sounds outright ridiculous. Because if you can't help but eat a box of Oreos after you go work out at the gym for an hour or two, then the problem is not what you're eating or how much you exercise, it's your self-control. 4 minutes left. 4.5 minutes. Finish this one off.
Calories. So how much you eat is what matters. In slowly tapering off is saying, I'm the person who eats 3 pizzas a day and drinks 2-liter bottles of soda every single day. You're not going to stop that right away. It's going to take a while. So what you could do is over the next year is say, instead of eating 3 large pizzas every single day, I'm going to eat 2.5 large pizzas a day. And then when you get used to 2.5, you say, I'm going to eat 2 large pizzas every single day. I'm going to eat 1.75 large pieces a day until you get to a normal amount of food, which may be 3 slices of pizza, or three kind of moderate sized slices of pizza would probably be normal weights. Because each time you hit a new landmark, things get easier and easier. So as soon as you take about a month or so to get used to the 2.5 pizzas, by the time you're there, it's not so far. It's not so bad to go to 2 pizzas. It's like you're walking a mile, or this is what I used to do when I was walking home from school when I was a kid, is let's say I had a particularly far walk. every so often I'd look back and say, look how far I've come. And then I'd look forward and say, well, it's only a couple more steps. So you take off the half pizza in your first bout, and you get used to that, and you say, well, it's only another half a pizza to get to get to 2 pizzas. Whereas if you try to take it down all at once, if you try to take down take out the whole pizza in one fell swoop, it's going to seem like it's a lot more difficult. It's going to seem a little bit less seamless, and it's going to really up your chances of quitting. You take those small successes, you say, well, it's not that much further than this, it's not that much further than that, it's not that much further than that, and you break yourself down to an easy diet, as opposed to what everybody else does, and this does not work because our diets have a 90% failure after 3 months, if not 95% failure after 3 months. So don't listen to people tell you going cold turkey does not work. Even with addiction therapy, going cold turkey does not work. Only about 5% of people who go through AA actually succeed. So you start tapering off. You start making things not as hard to. You start making your goals a little bit more broken down, a little bit more realistic. And when you actually get to the point where you're netting weight loss, because you might not lose weight for a couple months, what you could do is start out with not gaining weight. So I normally gain 10 pounds a month. How about I just gain 8 pounds this month? You're still going the wrong direction, but you're not going as fast. And you slow it down a little bit more. Now you're only gaining 5 pounds a month. You slow it down a little bit more.
Gaining 5 pounds a month. If you went from gaining 10 pounds a month to 8 pounds a month to 6 pounds a month, by the time you hit 0, let me just do some rough math here. 10, 18, 24, 28, 30. Unless I did the math wrong there, that's 30 pounds. And gaining weight at a consistent 10 pounds a month before that. Like, I get it. It's an example. He's pulling this out of his ass as a rough example. But if someone is consistently gaining 10 pounds per month, they've got serious problems. Because you'd have to recognize that early. Because think about that. If you go 1 year of gaining 10 pounds a month, that's 120 pounds. Like, jeez. Okay, I get it. Shave it down. Make it more realistic goals. I get the principle of the idea. But I sincerely think that it would be easier psychologically to get yourself to eat the same amount and exercise more rather than constantly trying to chip away at what you eat. Now, admittedly, you can't out-exercise a bad diet. Like, if you're packing away 8,000 calories a day, you're not going to be working out hard enough to burn that. Especially if you're unfamiliar to it. So, you're going to need to cut back, but... wow. Yeah, one bone, straight up. Like, if you were gaining 10 pounds a month, you'd be dead in a couple years. Like, I don't know. I'm someone who'd have to try for that. Maybe other people can just naturally put away more food than that. Well, no, and that's the other thing, too. Shinobi wants saving money. Like, how... like... I don't know why fast food is stereotyped as cheap, honestly, because it's not. Eating out is expensive. Like, compare the price of one hamburger combo, soda, fries, burger, at McDonald's. Go to your grocery store then. Burger, buns, fries, soda. I'm willing to bet that you can get 8 burgers, 8 buns, like a couple pounds of fries, and a 2-liter soda for less than the cost of 2 basic combo meals at McDonald's. The only thing that fast food saves you is time. And not having to cook it if you don't have the location. Like if you don't have a stovetop or something, or an oven, or a barbecue or whatever. Like, it is time and convenience that it saves you, not money. Anyway, almost done this. He's just going on this side tangent about how to diet effectively. Honestly, I was hoping for something better, but it's his second video. We have a lot more to get through.
Now you're getting 2 pounds, and eventually it's 0. And then when you start going in the right direction, you can only go so fast. It's very easy to stop yourself from going in the wrong direction, but it's really hard to actually make positive steps towards the right. So what you do in that case is ultimately you go for half a pound a week of weight loss. Let's say 25 pounds a year, 26 pounds a year. And then maybe you go for a pound of weight loss for every week. And then most, if you're really, really good, if you're really, really disciplined, maybe you go for 2 pounds a week, 100 pounds a year. And that's how you break this process. That's how you break this cycle. And the whole time that you're slowly doing this, you're not just doing the weight loss. You're working on every single other psychological problem that could cause you to gain weight in the first place.
Okay. Do you know what, personally, amongst people that I've met, do you know what I found the #1 gainer of weight to be? Christmas. Social events. Anywhere alcohol is served. That's where I see a lot of people gaining weight. You can talk about consistency, but people do not have consistent diets. They don't eat the exact same thing day after day, week after week, month after month. It changes quite frequently due to social events. So, trying to create those kinds of goals, I'm sure everybody's met that one person who diets from like January until the summer, trying to get that nice beach bod, and then as soon as Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, as soon as all that stuff shows up, out the window, they eat and drink, and they gain back all the weight. Bye. You can't expect consistent weight loss over an entire year. There's going to be some parts where it's faster. There's going to be some parts where it's slower. And here's the thing. If you are trying to get some kind of constant grade, then all it's going to take is like, I broke my record. I had too much to drink. I was out for a social event because it was a friend's birthday, or it was Christmas, or it was like a whole bunch of holidays and I had too much. Then they're going to psychologically break. Whereas if instead of trying to get them to consume less, you got them to exercise more, then you'd at least have some goal that they could positively work towards. Like, it's easier to get people enthusiastic about accomplishing more fitness goals than it is about eating less. Like, no one can triumphantly say, I only ate 2 pizzas today. But most people could triumphantly say, I successfully benched 2 plates today. Both of them are going to be effective at losing weight. But only one of them is going to give that psychological rush of dopamine for accomplishment. Again, chat, if I'm wrong, call me out on this. But I really think he's completely off base. 1 minute to go.
Every single family problem you have, every single problem at work, every single problem with your kids, your friends, or whatever, those are all the things that are going to make you overeat, and those are all the things that will break you down. And those are all the things that you're going to blame genetics on because you don't want to actually look at the real problem. Or those are all the things that people are going to blame genetics on because they don't want to actually look at themselves and look at their own problems. You know, it's the same thing that drives people to socials, and the same thing that drives people to saying we need to have a universal basic income is the idea that genetics are the cause of everything. And none of my decisions actually matter. It's all just fate. It's all just predestiny. And well, we'll call that a show. So thanks for listening. If you are new to the channel, please and you liked it, please throw a like on this video. That really helps. Maybe you have something to say about how wrong I've been about this situation, or how right I've been, or maybe you have some type of reference to make somewhere else. You can go ahead and throw that in the comments section. Or if you really like this channel quite a bit, how about a subscribe, and how about a view on some other video of my content. So I'll see you in the next one.
Can't comment on a video that's not up on your channel. So if there's any further information that you guys would like to post, by all means, post it in this comment section, because Sean here has made it impossible to comment on his. Alright, honestly, we're going to do one more. So, one more intermission, guys, and then we will tackle the third video, which is
one of the things I've been thinking a lot over the years.
Our allies against Gynocentrism. Oof. I'm looking forward to this. This will be the last one of the night, so refresh your drinks, hit the bathroom. We will be resuming in about 2 minutes, or however long it takes me to get a drink and go to the bathroom. Be right back. And we are back, Warband. See if chat got up to any shenanigans. Yeah, working out is definitely therapeutic. I'd honestly say that the best immediate short-term cure for depression, do some exercise. Push-ups, go for a walk or a run. Get your body moving. It just seems to be fairly consistent that anytime you are laid up or injured or sick, if possible, try to get some exercise, try to get your body moving. It is just straight up beneficial. All right. So, we shall begin with the third video from Sean's archive. The stuff that he has deleted from YouTube because he disavows Mgtow, because he doesn't agree with these statements anymore. And yet, Are these not the very videos that made people interested and engaged with his content to begin with? Let us see what exactly he disagrees with. And by all means, Sean, if you're watching, which you very, very well be, please react or comment below to explain. You certainly could use more interesting stream content than you currently have. Let us begin.
One of the things I've been thinking a lot over the years is the divide and conquer strategy, which is what you might recognize when they divide us by race. This is a very effective communist tactic to break up the native population, is that, well, if you want to have group work, you have to identify around a similar idea. So if we want to have this country work called America, we might say that we all have the fact that we live in the same place in common. So we can all unite behind the idea of Americans, thus we have a group at least on that one standpoint. But what you could do is, if you wanted to break that group down, is instead of pointing out all the ways you're the same, you're going to point out all the ways you're different. Okay, well, you may be living in the same area, but this person is white and that person is black. And you're Asian and you're all these different things. And those differences are bad, therefore you can't work together. It's a very, very effective tactic for breaking down a group, and it's a very, very effective tactic that the left has been using. So me personally, I take up some traits of the left. So I have a high amount of trait openness, which is why you're listening to me right now. And that leads to certain ideas that people on the left would associate. I also have a fairly decent amount of extroversion.
Did that make any sense? He has a high amount of trait openness, and that's why we're listening to him. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just downright confused. Really need to get my VTuber avatar up so I can, get just a kind of squinty-eyed, what the fuck is he on expression. Because that's how I feel when he said that. I was like, what? No, we're not here for your trait openness. We are here for video essays that are giving, or at the very least having, honest conversations about problems that we can relate to. I do not understand trait openness. Please, Sean, if you watch this video, could you explain, or at the very least give a link to what the hell you meant by this?
So there are beliefs that I have that are very on the left side, but I don't share the totality of the left. I still share the movement for the truth, and I think the left is the movement against the truth currently, based on the way they act. But one of the traits I share in common with people on the left is that I've taken up a vegan diet. Someone convinced me 5 years ago, and I said, great. There was a couple months of an adjustment period, and that's pretty much history. I haven't cheated on the diet. I haven't gone back on the diet.
Okay, so I guess for context, Sean was very much on a vegan diet when he made this. He will later dissociate himself from vegans, but we probably won't get to that for another couple episodes. There's a lot of videos ahead of this. So, I guess keep that in mind. He's probably not getting all the nutrients he needs to. And considering that he has since ceased to be a vegan as of, a year ago, he said? I'd have to double check the stream, but he says, well, I'm no longer a vegan, so it's wrong to call me a vegan. You have been a vegan for the majority of your YouTube career and very open about that. You have been a vegan YouTuber longer than you have been a non-vegan YouTuber. Calling the majority of your content vegan is entirely appropriate because, on average, your videos, even not counting your deleted videos, were produced when you were a vegan. You shall continue.
So that's that. But if you're ever around any of the vegan communities, there is an endless amount of divide and conquer. There's an endless amount of division and separation. So you're not vegan enough. Or you might have a group full of vegetarians and a group full of vegans, and the vegans will constantly attack the vegetarians for not being good enough. So there's a really inflammatory photo against vegetarians by vegans where it has a couple people pushing a truck. So it's like, 2 in the tail and then 2 on like the front doors. And then there's one guy on the top bed of the truck, and he's kind of pushing the back part of the truck where it says like, vegans are the ones that are pushing the truck, the vegetarians, the guy on the truck bed pushing the back part of the truck for some reason. That's, on the truck, so he's not actually helping. And there's a tiny bit of truth to that, because if you're still consuming milk, which is why most people stay vegetarian, you're still causing the death of cows, because cows that are used for milk are eventually turned into steak once they don't produce milk or once they've run out their usefulness. So there's a little bit of argument with that. However, the problem with memes like that, the one I just described, and the problems with all the infighting with vegans and vegetarians, so you're not...
If people were to stop eating meat en masse, do you think that all the cattle, or did you think that all the cattle would just be set free? They'd just be like, well, you no longer make milk. You're no longer sellable. Go, be free. No. Those cows are condemned to death for the purposes of human utility from the instant they are born. The only way that you're not going to have them die for human utility is if you prevent them from being born. Like, that's it, straight up. Like, we're not India. We don't worship them as sacred animals and treat them like the reincarnated forms of our ancestors. They are livestock. They are born solely for the intention of being useful to humans. If they are not useful to humans, then they are going to either starve to death, be eaten alive by wild animals, or be put down. The only reason you seem to constantly neglect the years of comfortable life that many cattle receive prior to their execution. Am I saying that everyone in the beef industry does this? No. Could the conditions be improved? Sure. At great cost. But you'd rather give meat up rather than pay more for more ethical meat. Hey, here's an old joke, guys. How do you know if someone's vegan? It's easy. They'll tell you. Let's continue.
Vegan enough, you're not good enough. You still, what about the chickens? What about the goats? What about all these things that aren't being eaten? Because really people are exclusively vegetarian, typically because of cheese, which is being rapidly fixed. So because there's all this infighting, you can't really communicate on similar values, where the similar value should be, we both don't like animals being killed for food. But when you get this intersectionality, well, you don't want these animals being killed for food, but these animals are okay, or you know, you say you're vegan, but you still eat honey, or you say you're vegan, but you still eat mollusks or clams.
What the heck's wrong with honey? We don't kill the bees. We don't kill bees for honey. We harvest the honey. We're not killing them. We're providing them with a safe environment. Would you prefer that we let them roam out in the wilds so that a bear can harvest the honey? You know, by tearing the hive apart, destroying their home for a chunk of honeycomb that they run off with? Would you rather bears eat it? Would you rather the bees just not exist? No, chat, you're right. It is just purity testing. They set an impossible moral standard, and every time someone reaches it, then they just set it higher and higher. We see it with the woke. And this guy has jumped wholeheartedly into the cult, and I quote, because somebody convinced him. So he didn't look at anything fucking logical for this. This was straight up, someone else convinced him through some kind of argument, probably an emotional one, because he doesn't have any fucking logic behind this. Someone used emotion to convince him to go on a strict vegan diet. And he does. But we're 4 minutes in. I'm not hearing anything about gynocentrism, so maybe he's got a point and it's leading in.
And there's endless amounts of division. There's endless amounts of infighting. And I just basically removed myself from the vegan movement because of that. I still have a vegan diet, but other vegans are just insufferable because of that, because they don't actually want to help. Now, me personally, they're vegans because...
So you disconnected from the movement, but you still followed the diet. Keep in mind, everyone, this is a graduate of exercise science. Right? He paid tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, or took that out in loans, to go learn how to exercise most effectively, and he got convinced to go on a vegan diet. And even despite no longer agreeing with the movement, he continued to be on that vegan diet. Like, gee. Alright, we'll see where he's going with this. Maybe he's going somewhere with this.
Because they're crazy, not vegans because they want to actually help animals. I think the ones that actually want to help animals, that actually want to create the movement and not just be weird, are very far and few between. At least in that particular movement. Not to say all movements are like that. So for me, when I go to the store, I say that anybody who can help the vegan movement in any way is a teammate, is an ally.
Vegans equals I won't eat or take from animals/insects. However, I wouldn't mind destroying their environment to travel, have property, participate in the system for others to destroy them, taxes.
Precisely. It's just like PETA saying that they rescue a shit ton of animals, and yeah, they get them out of their original environment, and then they have nowhere to go, so they just kill them. Like, the vegans do not care about the preservation of animal life, or the quality of animal life, or the preservation of habitat. What they care about is that people think that they are special and morally superior. So, if this guy does not believe in the vegan movement, dissociates himself from the vegan movement, and yet he's still going to follow the vegan diet and make damn sure to tell you that he is a vegan following the vegan diet, I can't really see this being any way noble or serving any sort of higher purpose beyond I want people to think I'm good and that I'm special. by all means, Sean, respond to this. Prove to me I'm wrong and elaborate on your thought process. Because yes, I have not done enough research. And quite frankly, were it not for the archive, doing enough research on you would be impossible. So if you want people to do research, how about you re-upload all your deleted content so people can get the full picture of who you are? And then perhaps they will be accurate.
So you may be on the paleo diet. Now, one of the contingencies of the paleo diet is that you can't eat dairy. So a lot of times when I go to the vegan section of the store, which used to only be Whole Foods, but now it's Ralph's, Vaughn's, and well, maybe I'm giving my region a little bit. Well, I've said I lived in California before, but many other Safeway for other places that are not California. But anytime I'm in front of the vegan cheese section, I always see people kind of like flustered because, well, me personally, I've tried out every single vegan cheese on the market, and I gotta say most of them are crap. So,
why are you eating vegan cheese? If you're going to be vegan, don't eat cheese. If you're going to be vegetarian, why are you crying for fake meat? Don't eat meat. Your conviction is weak. You want the meat. You want the cheese. You crave it. Your body knows it is good for you. And so you try to fool it with processed garbage and convince yourself that you're somehow morally superior for eating processed garbage. And you have no idea whether or not you even improved anything based on your so-called ideology. But so long as it's hidden behind the mask of the ideology, well, then it's all good, and you can brag to everyone else that you didn't cheat on your diet. Like, seriously. This is the equivalent of saying that you reduced the infant mortality rate by performing abortions. Technically true. Most people probably wouldn't say you're a good person because of it. But we'll see if by the 6-minute mark out of a 26-minute video, he actually mentions, the subject in the title. Hey, avatars, welcome, welcome. I'm getting a lot of subscribers for this. Definitely going to have to make this a regular series. We shall continue. Oh, Yamazaki235, thank you for joining.
I like to do people a service because vegan cheese is quite expensive to say this one, this one, this one, and this one, and kind of point to all the ones that are good. Like if you want cream cheese, you're going to get Miyoko's cream cheese, or you're going to get Kite Hill, which is okay. If you want shredded cheese, you're probably going to go for Daya. If you want sliced cheese, there's Chow, which is okay, but there's a bunch of other small Whole Foods based brands like that. Sorry, I can't name them. I can't remember what they're called. But some of those sliced cheeses outside of Chow. Chow's kind of like the worst one, but it's acceptable. Never eat anything by Follow Your Heart. That's always crap.
The man legit has tried every different kind of overpriced vegan cheese. I mean, personally, I like mozzarella. Cheddar's pretty good. The processed crap is processed crap, but it comes in convenient slices. This... again, if you're vegan, why are you trying to eat cheese? Why are you eating fake cheese? Just have thinly sliced tofu or something. Or make meals that don't use cheese. But you want cheese. You know you want cheese. Your body really wants cheese and craves cheese. I mean, let's be honest, guys. This is the equivalent of someone who's addicted to cocaine. Fucking taking sugar, making it into lines with the credit card, and then snorting that through a $50 bill instead, and saying that they're drug-free. It's like, okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, you're drug-free. The fact that you're not actually putting a drug into your system is one thing, but you're still freaking habitually addicted to shoving crystal shit up your nose. Now, no, by the way, legit, this was a thing a while back. Kids snorting pixie sticks. Like, seriously, they were snorting pixie sticks, and the crystals were shredding their nasal cavity and giving them nosebleeds. It was a thing. We'll continue here. He's still 6 minutes in, has not even gotten... He hasn't even mentioned the word gynocentrism once. I mean, I guess I can't really blame him for taking this video down. But if you're going to complain that people didn't do thorough research, put it up. Put them all back up, because this is great for my viewers. This is great for my likes. So, yeah, I'm going to keep doing this. And quite frankly, considering how much publicly available content you use, Sean, I have every fucking right to use your deleted content to make my channel grow. Let's continue.
So I can say this one, this one, this one, this one. I say, oh, what brings you to the vegan cheese section? It's just, oh, I'm paleo, or my neighbor's paleo, or my daughter went paleo. She can't eat dairy anymore because she's lactose intolerant or something like that, or even just lactose intolerant. Those people are allies. Those people are on the side of being vegan because they're helping the movement by giving the companies that make cheese are now getting more money because that person is paleo. Now, that paleo person might not give two shits about being vegan, but they help the movement.
Why do they need to eat cheese? But okay, he's getting to a point with the metaphor here. We'll just continue. I can let it go more than 30 seconds.
And I might like to expand it to any spectrum where it's like anytime someone buys a vegan product at all, anytime someone buys a vegan imitation of a product. So if you buy chorizo, if you buy Beyond Burgers, if you buy Garden, if you buy veggie Hot Pockets.
Oh God, Beyond. Wait, was fucking Beyond Meat a thing this many years ago? Oh, literally processed feed waste from China. Like, you'd rather eat literal agricultural garbage than meat. But you wouldn't, because you're still trying to eat fake meat. Why don't you just not eat cheese? Not eat meat? Like, for fuck's sakes, there's plenty of diets. Like, there have been entire vegetarian religions and subcultures that subsisted on purely vegetarian, non-violent diets that didn't involve any of this fucking pseudoscience bullshit. And they are old. And they have taste fucking food. Why the fuck do you still feel the urge to eat fake meat and fake cheese rather than switching your diet to a palate that is tasty and fits in with your supposed beliefs? And quite honestly, is probably more in line with the beliefs you fucking pretend to live by, rather than the fucking bullshit you eat by having all this fake meat and fake cheese. Hi. God damn, I got a fucking chip on my shoulder against vegans, guys. Just straight up, you want to call me biased in the comment section or chat? By all means, I probably have deserved it. But I don't see Sean backing up anything with logic here. He's too busy reviewing what kinds of vegan cheese are suitable for what format of cheese you eat. By God, even I don't know what kinds of regular cheese are better for that. It's fucking mozzarella or processed. That's about it.
Tofurkim actually makes pretty good ones, though those are really hard to find, at least in my area. So anytime someone purchases a fake meat product, I'd say that they're helping the movement, whether they're vegans or not. Because the number one reason that people don't go vegan is because of taste. That's the number one reason people don't give up cheese. And if you got a sizable amount of vegan cheese is correct, and you made them cheaper, there'd be no vegetarians. There'd be no lacto-vegetarians. Okay, they've already figured out ice cream. They've already figured out baked goods like cake and stuff like that. They've already figured out a lot of the big stuff. They just need to, once they figure out cheese, that's going to be a massive movement towards veganism for vegetarians, and it's going to be a big assister for a lot of other people. You know, all the people who are lactose intolerant, whether they're vegan or not, is going to be a big deal, and so it'll help bring people in. So anybody who purchases a vegan product is going to help. That's why I say, even because there are a lot of people like, what is it? The guy from Queen, Brian May. He's like a vegetarian sympathizer or a vegan sympathizer. He says, I wish I could do it. I just can't do it because of taste. But I appreciate and respect what you're doing. So to someone like that who is not capable of making the change, it's a little bit difficult to change to being a vegan. Someone who's not capable of making the change, what Brian May could do is he could just purchase some vegan products. Or what he could do as well, since Brian May has shitloads of money because he's a member of Queen, is he could help invest in a vegan company because he's capable of doing that. And so maybe it's like this, where Beyond Burger was able to make the best tasting veggie burger to the market. Now, for those who've not tried it.
Okay. For those of you who haven't tried it, the Beyond Meat and Impossible stuff contains a metric shit ton of estrogen and has to substitute for the lack of actual meat taste with a bunch of sodium. It is estrogen and salt. That is the Beyond Meat Impossible Burger. It is literal agricultural garbage with a bunch of salt and estrogen. That's your substitute burger. So you know what? If you want to transition, but you can't get the estrogen pills, just eat a whole bunch of Beyond Meat. You'll get your tits. No problem. Again, almost 9 minutes in. We are over a third of the way into the video, and he has not mentioned gynocentrism. He's mentioned allies, but again, this is all about his fucking veganism. What is this going to be? Some kind of metaphor for how like PUAs and black pillars are allies against gynocentrism or something? Like, jeez. Just continue. We'll get through this. God, I don't want this to go to 3 hours, so trying to keep these at least somewhat reasonable. But he's already got freaking half-hour video, and I'm pretty sure that legally I have to insert some comment every couple minutes or so. Otherwise, this probably violates some kind of copyright. I don't know.
It is not as good as actual meat, but it's the best veggie burger by far. So they were able to do the research and development for that hamburger.
Keep in mind, this is an exercise. They took exercise science as his major in post-secondary education. And he is judging the quality of veggie burgers not on their nutritional value, but on their taste.
Because Tyson Chicken, a massive meat company, said, hey, we believe in your product and we're going to work with you. We're going to give you some money for research and development. So that's great. Tyson chicken, if you want to say the vegan argument, well, they're mass murderers, they're killers of animals. How dare Tyson chicken? A lot of vegans have said, not all vegans, but a lot of vegans have said this. But if it wasn't for that relationship, we wouldn't have the best tasting veggie burger. If it wasn't for Daya, who
Okay, so you're okay with supporting what you call mass murderers so long as they support your cause. All right, so long as they benefit you, what you view as morally reprehensible is acceptable. Okay, just making sure we're on the same page here.
just merged with a Japanese pharmaceutical company that does vivisection, which is study on rats. A lot of vegans were pissed about that. To which I said, are you fucking kidding me? Do you know how many more people are going to be brought vegan cheese because of this merger? Because this $300 million company merged with small little Daya, which is like
So you who went vegan out of concern for animals say, you know what? Who cares if a shit ton of animals died and suffered? We got better tasting vegan cheese out of it. Isn't it worth the sacrifice of a shit ton of animals so that we get slightly better tasting food that we don't even really need to eat? By fucking God. I am damn curious as to what the original comment section to this video looked like.
a company that started like 10 years ago or something like that. A lot of these companies are very recent. So it's amazing when they get support like that. And I think we should start taking this in stride with the movement against gynocentrism. I think we should take the same battle.
Okay, 10 minutes in, he mentions gynocentrism. All right.
That I recommend for vegans is anybody who helps the message as an ally and doesn't actively go out of their way to hurt it. So of course, if they're like a
who defines who hurts the message? Hey, Lonnie Lewick, thank you very much for the sub. Who defines who hurts the message? Who defines this? Are you even going to define gynocentrism? Let's see who you consider an ally against gynocentrism, shall we?
What are those people called? They go into the movements, they're going to a protest, and like some people are protesting for, I don't know, police brutality, even though I don't think that's a thing. Someone's protesting police brutality, so I'm going to hire some agents to go bomb cars and throw shit and destroy the movement. That way the police brutality protest doesn't go anywhere. Provocateurs is, or agent provocateurs, I think is the word for that. So as long as they're not that type of person, I think any...
Oh, so he knows about agent provocateurs. And yet, he was so willing to move away from Mgtow, to disavow Mgtow, because someone on the Mgtow subreddit was saying some distasteful things. Did he consider them agent provocateurs at the time? Did he consider that perhaps he might be being a tad hypocritical? Or is that just an excuse for trying to boost your videos in the algorithm because you know YouTube hates that acronym? Well, only he'll ever know for sure. Let's continue.
Anybody who is going to help the movement against gynocentrism or against the female tyranny that we're currently in. Like a lot of the feminists love to say that we've never seen what it's like for women to rule. Women have been ruling this country for at least the past 100 years, and they've been ruling this country for maybe even longer than that because women's power is very indirect. Even women are indirect in multiple ways. If you ever ask a girl out, you're going to say, hey, would you go to a movie with me? Or preferably not a movie, prefer like a dinner date or something like that. And she might say, if she doesn't like you, she's going to say, Wednesday, I'm kind of busy on Wednesday. I'm kind of, that's so weak. I'm not ready for a relationship. I just got out of a bad relationship. By the way, if she just got out of a bad relationship and you are attractive, there's no force that could pull her back from you. But if she's using that, I just got out of a bad relationship, I just all these excuses, it's an indirect way of saying that she doesn't like you. So women are indirect like that, which means women's power is very indirect, and so she may not be the one pushing the buttons, but she may be the person advising the person pushing the button. And so it might be that let's say 100 years ago, women couldn't vote, but she may very well say, if you don't vote for this guy, I won't have sex with you. And it could be like that. So if she really wanted power like that, she could use it like that, because women have a lot of power over men, especially the vast majority of men who they perceive to be below average. Whereas that Match.com study, or I think I actually know is OkCupid did a study, and 80% or women found 80% of men to be below average.
So this is the first video where he mentions that study. Interesting. Let's see if he goes into a little more depth on that.
So it's statistically impossible, but it's just how women perceive men. So if you perceive that you're higher value than your mate, you're obviously going to have more value than they do. That's how any sort of business relationship works, especially if there's a little bit of truth behind the higher value. So if we're going to have this battle against this female tyranny that we currently have of letting every single person and their grandmother in, letting every terrorist and rapist and murderer in, and it might not be mostly immigrants, but if you create this massive influx of new people likely to get more Democrat votes, because the Democrat Party has been really just utterly destroyed by the new media. Fantastic. I can't wait till the old media dies, because that's where we start getting real truth. That's where we start getting, these mild debates between Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson, where one's more individual center, one's more group center, where Sam would be more on the left, Jordan Peterson seems to be more on the right, though these terms are very hard to define. I like Stefan Molyneux's term, where it's just like, I'm on the side of truth. So whatever is correct is correct. I might argue a little bit more for the group, I might argue a little bit more for the individual, but whatever works is going to be the thing that works. So I like to keep an open mind. You might call that objectivist. I don't really. It's hard to hit the political spectrum, because there's so many different definitions and redefinitions that it's just confusing. So let's just say there's going to be more people on the side of truth, and as we hit those different different parts, we need to recognize when people are allies and people are not allies. So if you're from the Mgtow movement, I think that the big goal of the
Mgtow movement. Everyone, how many times over the past several years have we heard, time and time again, been repeated ad nauseum, Mgtow is not a movement. It is a philosophy. Now, no, Warband is not Mgtow, but we can at the very least be accurate about what Mgtow is and what it is not. And it is not a movement. Now, third video. Perhaps you will come to this realization over the course of the several Mgtow videos he has made that he has since deleted or renamed. We'll see. But at the very least, we can say that video 3 was his first mention of Mgtow and his first association with Mgtow. Let us continue.
Mgtow movement is to bring things back to a place where it's safe for men to get married and it's safe for men to have children. The only way we're really going to get that is a massive change in the laws.
He is conflating Mgtow with MRAs. Mgtow is not a movement with political goals. It never has been. He's conflating Mgtow with MRAs who seek to try to change the system actively through political involvement. Alright. Well, you know what? I guess we can say that at very least, by video 3, he wasn't doing thorough research into what he was talking about. But it's video 3 out of what? A couple hundred? We'll cut him a little bit of slack and see if he grows. Well, grows into what he is now eventually, but we'll get there.
Either we keep the government. My point would be get rid of the government. The women wouldn't be able to do all this shit if it wasn't for the government. So I'm more on the voluntarist side of this. But for those of you, voluntarism is a very rare belief, just like veganism is a very rare belief. Maybe 5% of people believe that. So, or you're one of the people who wants to keep things as a lawful society. A lawful society. And when I say voluntarism, I mean this is an eventual goal. This is a goal that could take 200 years to get to a society without government that has the psychological backing to where people can be responsible enough to not need the government. But if you're someone who's going to go on the government route, which is what we're probably going to go on, at the very least, every single law that feminism has gotten over men, so the divorce courts, alimony, child support, welfare, any sort of government welfare, and by the way, this is not something that's gone over very much in the Mgtow movement. This is still pretty important too. The welfare is not just for women. Welfare is also for corporations. There are a lot of corporations that should have failed that stay in power with bad business practices because the government bails them out, because people have said, or in this case, female voters have said, it's okay to bail people out when they're in a bad spot. So it's okay to bail out whatever bank you want to bail out, or whatever company is failing, or give them land grants, or give them a massive tax write-off so nobody else gets, and things like that, though. I'm not a fan of taxes either. So anybody that's going to help this movement in the right direction is an ally. So it may be the specific set of group, let's say it's 10% of men, whether they identify as Mgtow or not. 10% of men go the I'm not going to get married route ever unless these laws are changed. And then everybody else, because 10% is a pretty big movement. They say the Revolutionary War happened with 3% of the population. So if you have...
There's a big difference between I'm not going to get married until the laws are changed and I'm not going to get married. Quite frankly, if you have a condition applied to whether or not you are going to get married in the future, then so far as I'm concerned, you're not Mgtow. That is why I personally cannot consider myself Mgtow, because there is a chance that I will get married in the future for the purpose of having a strong family. There's a time limit on it. I've accepted there's a decent chance that it probably won't work out that way. But until I commit to not getting married, and that includes having kids, because if you have kids with a woman, you're effectively married. But so far as I'm concerned, so long as that is something that you have a non-zero chance of in your future, personally, you're not Mgtow. So saying that your being Mgtow is conditional, no. You're an MRA. You're a men's rights activist, and you are holding your marriage as hostage. Mgtow, from my understanding at least, is unconditional. No marriage, no cohabitation. Guys in chat, you can give your 2 cents on this. Comments below, give your 2 cents on this. my personal view. Whether or not you agree, hey, we'll see. But let's continue. 10 minutes to go? A little under that, yeah.
10% of the population. That's a pretty big bluff there. Pretty big.
Pliskin, would I get married in the West? Fuck no. If I get married, it's overseas and I'm staying there. That's why I'm trying to build up skills that can be utilized remotely so that I'm not landlocked to the West in order to do it. And I can fuck off to the Philippines or whatever in order to get a wife and start a family. But no. In the West, hell no. The only way that I would even consider getting married is in a place where the laws are better, and there's going to be at least 20 years before they get to a shitty state. But that's why I can't consider myself Mgtow. As for in the West, no. If I'm stuck in the West past my allotted time scale, which is about 15 years, it's just not happening. If I can't leave the country and sustain myself outside of the country, it's just not happening. Period. This country will burn to the fucking ground before I get married.
Bluff is not the right word. A pretty big negotiation or bargain. Those aren't the right words either, but let me just say it this way. If I'm going to negotiate, I'm going to have my certain terms. And if I say, you either do this or the deal is off. So that's a big Mgtow move. You either revert all the gynocentric laws that were created by feminism, or we don't step up to the table. We don't step up to get married, because it's not a safe place to do that. Especially false rape accusations, or that can happen at any point, or false child abuse accusations that are actually apparently fairly common. So you have the 10% of men that are saying no, which can displace a lot of women, because that makes it less likely that they will get a good man. Because let's say what women are looking for are men that are rich and successful. Not having children, it makes things a lot cheaper, and it gives you a lot more free time, and it gives you a lot more time to work on yourself. And since Mgtow is a very self-improvement movement, I think the chances, though I don't have stats of this, I think the chances of them being more successful is very, very likely because of those beliefs. So you have those people that are there, and then you have all the people that are around that movement. You have the Jordan Petersons, you have the Stefan Molyneux, people that are suggesting that people get married, but suggesting that people get married in a healthy way. So that way that, they're taking the risk, because the risk is phenomenal.
Okay, perhaps I'm a bit confused. Are you suggesting that the people who suggest a man get married in the West in this day and age, but in a healthy way, that they are allies? You are saying that people who advocate for a decent slave owner are somehow allies against slavery. Okay? Am I completely off base, chat? Or Sean, if you happen to see this, please elaborate and tell me how I'm completely off base. Because it sounds like you're saying that the people who advocate for men making themselves debt slaves to the government, but in a healthy way, are still allies against gynocentrism. Maybe the next minute's going to change things around here. 8 minutes to go. Maybe I'm overreacting. Let's find out. Let's find out.
For getting married, you could, if you make the wrong move, if you bet on black and it turns up red, to make a hopefully accurate roulette metaphor, and you fail and you roll snake eyes, you fuck up. It's a fuck up that will last the rest of your life. It depends. Well, depending on how long you're married, depending on how good your lawyer is. So those people are probably not going to be convinced. If every single man was said Mgtow or else, these changes will probably happen very quickly, because women are very dependent on men. in terms of for their actual survival. Men are dependent on women for the survival of the actual race, but at this point, that the
At least until we get artificial wombs going, which, let's be honest, probably not that far away. And, okay, let's be completely honest. If every woman were to suddenly go poof in a Thanos snap today, research on the artificial womb would probably be completed in time to continue the human race. Just, I mean, maybe I'm off, but I definitely think that we toss a whole bunch of our ethics out the window to get that stuff done as fast as possible.
male bargaining chip is a lot more powerful than the female bargaining chip. So if all men said that no until these laws change, this would happen instantly. But because that's not going to happen, at the very least, we need to start trying to breed more and more successful people. And the only way that's going to get bred in is by people like Stefan Molyneux, by people like Jordan Peterson saying, here's all the right ways to live. Here's how to have self-knowledge. Here's how to break your own bad decisions. And that's going to make it more likely that the Nawalts will come out or the good women will come out. And that's going to...
Okay, so yeah, he's advocating for Nawalt, and he's saying Jordan Peterson, a man who is addicted to what's the appropriate word? I'm just gonna say drugs. He's got a drug problem, and he raised a whore of a daughter. Yeah, that's the kind of man who you want teaching you how to live a good life. You want a man addicted to what? Like benzos, benzene? He's addicted to some sort of like counter-psychotic medication or antipsychotic or antidepressant. He's addicted to some kind of pharmaceutical. And his daughter's a fucking whore. And that's the kind of man who you should listen. Like that's the best option for you to listen to if you're not ready to just say fuck it to the whole thing. Benzos, thank you, Sid. Yeah. Okay. It'll be interesting to see whether or not he remains consistent on this in future videos. Let's keep going. 7 minutes.
make it more likely that people will say, hey, we need to start dismantling some of this stuff. And so much like what feminism has done is start to dismantle all the positive things about Western culture. Like if you're talking, I met an example in another video about dieting, and if you're going to have a society where 30% of the people are obese and 70% of the people are overweight, there needs to be a massive dismantling of the cultural norms of society. So one of those cultural norms that was dismantled was that mom's not at home. So she's not there to cook food, which means that we need more processed foods. If we're going to have a processed food succeed, it needs to be desirable to most people, which means we have to shove a bunch of sugar and oil in it and salt.
Or you could just give the kids to the father. Mom not being at home? No, dad can still cook. Dad often does cook. Dad ain't the one going out and buying McDonald's for the kids. Dad ain't the one yelling at fucking fast food places about how they need to feed their kids. How dare you be out of chicken? No. That's women. Women are the ones who take their kids to fast food. Men, shocker, know how to cook. They know how to cook for their kids. They know how to cook healthy meals for their kids that don't take a long time. So maybe, just maybe, the solution to keeping kids from becoming obese would be to put them in the custody of the parent that knows how to cook them a healthy meal on the regular. But, maybe over the course of the next, year? You've got at least another 50 videos before we catch up to anything that's even in your existing archive. Seriously, I'm going to have to do 2 of these fucking meetings a week just to, catch up with you within the next freaking half a year or whatever. I don't know. It's late. I can't do the math, but yeah, I'd have to do 2 of these sessions a week, covering 3 of your videos per session, and then maybe within the next 3 months, I'd catch up to your existing archive. I haven't done a full count. I got 30 some odd videos of your shit downloaded already, and your current archive is nowhere in sight. It's going to be a while. So, yeah. We'll see how much your thoughts on this change over the next, couple years? Seriously, if someone could date these videos, that would be appreciated. But let's continue. 6 minutes to go.
All these things are not too healthy for, and all these chemicals to preserve it because nobody's cooking anymore. And then you add shitty schools that don't teach you how to don't teach you anything about diet. You have impulse. You have like the single motherhood and the mom's not here, so you've got a very, I think it was an R selective, very impulse type decision, instant gratification, and all these little barriers that were broken down because of the feminist.
What the fuck are you talking about? Mom's not here, therefore impulse. What? Let's see. Let's look at the success rate of single father households where mom has absolutely no presence. Oh, yeah, there seems to be a shit ton more self-control and self-discipline when mom is completely removed from the equation. Why the heck do you keep talking about how mom's being removed from the family when in 95% of cases, the mother is the one with custody? And it's the father being removed from the household. So
it allows people to be massively overweight. Much like all these barriers that were broken down because of the feminist movement allow for all these tortures against men. And so what we start doing is we start rebuilding those pillars, and eventually, after we rebuild enough, we'll say, okay, time to get rid of all these things that are terrible for society, which, again, is all divorce courts and welfare and alimony and open borders and things like that. But it's only going to happen if we start allying with the right people. So what you might do is define a bunch of terms that are going to be progress for you. So one of the terms of progress is getting rid of welfare. There are a ton of people that are getting rid of welfare, so there are a ton of people that could be allies to the Mgtow movement. It could be Ben Shapiro, who is very happily married and has 2 kids, very, very against welfare. He's an ally. Stefan Molyneux, very, very against welfare. He's an ally. Steven Crowder against welfare. They're an ally. Or he's maybe I'm trying not to misgender him or something.
Okay, so remember, in summary, men who are advocating for other men to subject themselves to usury and sign contracts to sign their lives away to women and the state, those are allies of Mgtow, according to Sean here. All right, just so we know where he stands as of this video.
Like that. So even though, sorry about that, even though they disagree with the movement of men going their own way, if you haven't looked up Mgtow by now, it means men going your own way if you're someone who has not seen anything about the movement. And it's a movement for people.
You mean movement as in your own knowledge of the philosophy is so flawed and skewed that you consider it a movement. I wonder how many videos before you say it is a philosophy, not a movement, or if in your years of supposed research you never actually came to that realization. At what point did you actually start watching Hammerhand's content? Because if you'd watched basically any of his content regarding Mgtow, you would have heard it's a philosophy, not a movement. So I'm guessing at least by this point you haven't listened to Hammerhand, and yet you have the gall to get upset at Hammerhand for not watching your shit. Let's see. Lack of research. spreading misinformation and outright lies. And something that took, 5 seconds of research to discover? Well, apparently by your third video, you weren't doing that yourself. So, let's see how long it takes you to meet your own standards.
People who are saying, well, you probably figured out now, it's basically people who are, men are saying no to marriage. Because marriage has no benefit to a man outside of children or outside of, and a lot of women these days don't have any value outside of sex, and so if you're not going to bring actual virtues and morals to the relationship because you've had too many sexual partners, or you don't know how to cook, or you don't know how to any sort of traditional female roles, well, then what do men need you for? You have all the male utility. Men are still expected to live up to their roles, but women are not expected to live up to their roles because of feminism. So, so what do you bring to the table besides sex? And if the answer is nothing, well, then why would I get married to you? Because I can get sex outside of marriage. If you're not going to be a mother, if you're not going to be a supportive role, so I can do my work in the workplace and I can have someone help me with the children at home and help me all the home stuff. If you can't do all that stuff, why would I get married?
I mean, nothing revolutionary, but this video was several years ago. I don't know, I mean, nowadays it doesn't seem like anything new, and quite frankly, the way he's saying it, it does sound like he's still regurgitating points he heard from someone else. So, can't really give him credit for originality there. I'd say he's beating a dead horse, but who knows? Maybe the horse was actually alive and healthy 4 or 5 years ago.
So that's the Mgtow movement. So anything that further...
Although, I suppose I could ask, in the present day, Sean, so what's Brittany Venti providing for you that makes it worth all that you're doing for her? Enough to say that you're officially dating. What is she doing for you? Did you need to be dating her to have sex with her? Have you even touched her? Have you even been in the same room as her? Because I think it's quite hilarious that meme she shared about you two having consensual sex and Undead Chronic supposedly objecting. Yeah, that was you two photoshopped together. So have you even taken a physical picture together? Is there any proof that you've ever been in the same physical space? Who knows? Maybe by now there has. But I think that's fucking hilarious. I mean, let's be honest. With every passing minute, it's easier and easier to see why you destroyed this video and tried to hide it away from the world. Seriously, I owe the guys who archived this so much. 3 minutes, let's finish this off.
There's that cost. You might say the traditionalists are going to help, even though the traditionalists could be just as bad. They can just be, well, let's trick them just enough to bring them back into the marriage pool. We'll say we're good people, but really, if anything goes wrong, I can just divorce rape him later. If I don't like him in 10 years, I can just use all the gynocentric laws that are to ruin his life. Now, if we can hold those people accountable, if we can start pointing these things out, maybe we can take those guys as full allies too. But anybody who's on the spectrum of getting welfare is going to be someone who's on the spectrum of healing society, because that's going to remove the subsidies of single motherhood. And you may very well define what some of the other terms are. Maybe you get rid of false rape allegations. That's a very, very big concern. Well, those are the two I can think off the top of my head, because I don't want to have to sit here and script this. I feel like if I'm just constantly looking at points or constantly looking at data points and things like that, and that are just pre-practice, it's not going to sound as authentic. So there's two big ones: false rape, welfare, alimony, child support. Anybody who's looking to get rid of those, I'd say they're an ally. Just like I'd say anybody who's looking to get rid of, anybody who's willing to support any sort of vegan product that would help people make the transition to being vegan, because there's one certainty with that type of movement, is that people will not go vegan until the fake meats and cheeses and fake dairy and fake animal products taste exactly like the same thing, or taste exactly or better than the real thing.
Okay, so let's wrap up his analogy here. And it's surprisingly accurate. So he's comparing companies which murder and torture animals as being beneficial to vegans in the long run. The same way he is saying that men who convince other men to commit themselves to lives of misery, usury, and servitude, if not outright slavery, are beneficial for men in the long run. Yeah, you know what? That does sound fairly consistent. Let's torture men now. Let's have men suffer now so that maybe in the future men won't have to suffer as much. The same way as let's kill a shit ton of animals now and support people who kill and torture animals now so that maybe in the future fewer animals will have to be killed and tortured. Sounds completely ideologically consistent.
And it's cheaper. So anybody who helps that action by investing in companies, by doing mergers, by just buying the products themselves, those are all allies. So I think we should start removing ourselves from divide and conquer. We should stop saying, oh, hey, this guy's different from me because of all these things or those things, and we're all different here, and how could he ever say this? Fuck all that. Find out where we're similar. Let's start working together, and let's end this. Let's end this. Let's save this society. Or at least, if there's going to be a crash, let's make that crash as light as possible, and let's get back on our feet as soon as possible. Well, let's call that a video. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. For those of you who love staring at blank screens or screens with very limited graphics. On that note, I've been looking for an artist to actually draw me a neutral screen, kind of like what Sargon of Akkad has, or what Teal Deer has, those types of things. So prepare for that. I have to probably talk to multiple artists about that. I've got to articulate what exactly I want. So that's going to come in the future. For now, you see nice little text that hopefully says the title of this video, whatever I decided to title it. And other than that, if you like the video, how about you throw a like on it? How about you throw a comment on that? If you have some better ideas than I do, why don't you put those in the comment section? There may be something I didn't think of. Or you can throw a nice little subscribe down. Maybe hit that bell if that works. I don't know if that works. Do it anyway. And I will see you in the next one.
Except we can't comment on a video that is no longer hosted on YouTube. Until I chop up this live stream into separate parts per video and re-upload it, which, given that it is basically 1 in the morning, that's not happening tonight. But I will get this stuff separated and uploaded, so thank you everyone in chat for participating. This has honestly been my most successful stream. I'm going to keep doing this because these are good numbers. Chat participation is great. Tons of views, tons of concurrent viewers. Again, thank you everyone. I do appreciate the comments. I do appreciate the donations. And I'm going to try to get some better redeems installed here if I can manage to set aside the time to set it all up. So I'm going to play everybody out. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you all have a good night. And Chronic's roast tomorrow. It should be legendary. Him and Ruby teaming up. It's going to be good shit. Y'all have a good night. Peace out, Warband.